Hey distinction students, welcome to the part 2 of the video for the topic global issues. In this video, we are going to talk about two things: trade and World Trade Organization, WTO. Okay, so what is trade? Trade is the selling and buying of goods and services to earn some profit. Buying and selling of goods and services with a view of making a profit, which can be internal or external. So when we say internal or external, we mean international trade or home trade. So internal trade is also known as home trade, as I've said, or domestic trade, which is the buying and selling of goods and services within the country. Just within Zambia here, you are buying and selling the goods with a view of making a profit. Then external trade, also known as foreign trade or international trade, refers to the buying and selling of goods and services between two or more countries. You're buying things from Tanzania, from China, from Japan. That is what we call international trade or external trade. So I hope you have understood what trade is: buying and selling of goods and services with a view of making a profit. Then we have international trade, which is the buying and selling of goods with a view of making profit between countries. Then also internal trade or home trade, which is the buying and selling of goods within the same country. Okay, now what is the importance of trade? What is the importance of trade? We'll talk about international trade. The importance of international trade, buying and selling of goods between countries. Uneven distribution of resources. There is an even distribution of resources. This means that no nation has all the natural resources essential for the functioning of a modern industry economy. You know, not every country, or let me just say, all countries do not have all the natural resources essential for the functioning of a modern industrial economy. For example, China imports copper from Zambia so as to make things that they manufacture that side. So we all depend on each other. Remember, global interdependency. Why have we talked about the importance of international trade only? Because what we are learning about is global interdependency or global issues. So we want to deal with countries across the earth. Then two, there is climatic differences. This means that some climatic conditions in temperature countries like Canada are not favorable to the production of certain food crops needed by that country. Climate. So there is climatic differences. Some countries have no favorable climatic conditions. For example, they've talked about Canada. There is no favorable climatic condition that side that can allow that country grow some of the crops they need. You see? Now, let's take it for instance that side in Canada, they do not grow crops like maize, millet, cassava, and all these things. But they need them. They need to eat. What can they do? They'll import. That is the importance of international trade. Even if there is no favorable climatic condition in that country that can allow it to grow certain food crops needed, they can import the same crops they need from other countries which have favorable climatic conditions. 3, there is specialization. This means that no country can produce all the goods and services it requires, as each country specializes in a given line of industries where it is most efficient. There is no country which produces everything required in that country. They produce. No, we don't have that country. They import. We all import from other countries because we are specialized. For example, Zambia is specialized in exporting copper. Japan, China, Belgium, cars. They manufacture cars. See, so there is specialization. 4, there is technological differences. This means that some countries do not possess the technological capacity to produce certain products, which makes it necessary for them to buy such products from other nations. Look at this. Some countries do not have the technology capacity. Do we make phones in Zambia? No. We don't have that technological capacity of producing phones. Hence, that becomes a necessity. It's like a mandate. We need phones. So we should import. You see? We need phones. So we import. It becomes necessary for us to import. There is technological differences. Apart from that, there is supplement domestic production. This means that a nation with vast demands or inadequate local supplies of certain products may import certain goods to supplement its own domestic production. This simply means helping the local industries. The local industries, for example, in Zambia, maybe you say the industries which are producing cooking oil are not that efficient, are not that much. So we can import some cooking oil so as to supplement our local industries, to help them. And foreign exchange. This implies that trade is one way of increasing one's own wealth through profit making. So as you export things, you are a farmer, you are exporting things to America. That's why they use dollar. See, there is dollar. So you earn foreign exchange. You earn the foreign currency. That's right. Because you'll be selling in dollars. If you go that side. That's how it is. Then promote international cooperation. This one is straightforward. International cooperation. Because as countries trade, they build a relationship. Because if I give an example of you can't be trading with someone you don't know. You see, you trade for a long time, you don't even know the name, you don't even know some of the things about that person. That's not possible. As long as you are trading with that person, you are buying and selling the goods. For example, you are the buyer, he's the seller. You'll be knowing each other. So even countries, as they trade, they become to know each other. Like Zambia and China, they built a relationship just through trade. Those are some of the importances of international trade. Now, let us talk about terms of trade. Terms of trade. Terms of trade means the rate at which a nation's exports are exchanged for imports from other nations. The rate, we mean the time. The time at which a nation's exports, things that they are exporting, selling to other countries, are exchanged for imports from another nation. They depend on the prices of commodities on the international market. So that is terms of trade. Rate at which a nation's exports are exchanged for import from another nation. We have favorable terms of trade and unfavorable terms of trade. Favorable terms of trade means the prices for one's country's exports are relatively higher than the prices for its imports. This is normal, favorable. When your exports prices are higher than the imports prices, then that is favorable. That's how it should be. Now, if it becomes the other way around, the import prices becomes higher than the export prices. That means you are importing more than you are exporting. You are importing more than you are exporting. It's like you are earning a 500 kwacha. That's what you get. You get a 500 kwacha at the end of the month. But when you calculate all your expenses, you are finding that it's 100. It's 1,000. It's 1,000. You are spending 1,000, but you get 500 kwacha. How is this true? So that's what we call unfavorable terms of trade. When the imports surpasses the exports. That is unfavorable. Balance of trade. There we've been talking about the terms of trade. Just the rate. The rate. Now, balance of trade is the difference between the value of visible imports and exports over a period of time. Balance of trade is when the value of visible exports is equal to that of visible imports. Now look at this. When you talk about balance of trade, there are two things here: balance of trade and balance of payment. So balance of trade is simply the difference between visible imports and visible exports. Things that you can see and touch. So when we talk about balance of trade, we specifically talk about the goods, not services. No, because you can't see a service, you can't touch a service. So when we're talking about balance of trade, we're talking about goods only. So now the difference between the goods imported and the goods exported, that's what we call what? Balance of trade. So even here we have favorable and unfavorable balance of trade. Favorable balance of trade is when the value of country's visible exports exceeds the value of visible imports. What you are exporting is more than what you are importing. That means you are making profit. You're making a profit because you are selling more than you are buying. You are selling more than you are buying. What do I mean? Let me say you sell goods for 2,000 kwacha. You sell goods for 2,000 kwacha, but your imports are only costing 1,500. Your imports are only costing 1,500. So that means you've got a surplus here. This is your money. The 500 that is remaining to reach 2,000 is your money. You see? So that is favorable balance of trade. And this is known as trade surplus, when the exports exceed the imports. Now, when it comes the other way around, it's unfavorable balance of trade. The imports exceeds the exports. Now here we're talking about goods, the value of goods, because balance of trade is talking about visible imports, visible exports. So we are focusing on the value of goods. For example, you import goods for 5,000, but the country only exported goods costing 2,000. Exported this, imported this. How will you pay? How will you pay? Because your money is this. But look at this. So this is what we call trade deficit. Trade deficit. When the import suppresses or surpasses the exports. That's what we call trade deficit. Said there is balance of trade, balance of payment. So balance of payment means the difference in a country's spending and earnings from imports and exports. So in short, balance of trade only deals with the visible goods. But balance of payment is comprehensive now. Everything. Visible goods, the invisible goods such as services are included in the balance of payment. So it includes payments and earnings from both visible and invisible imports and exports. See? Then invisible imports are services such as insurance, transport, tourism, and expatriate labor. Those are invisible imports, things you cannot see and touch. For example, you import a doctor from Congo comes in Zambia to give a service. Teacher from Congo, teacher from America comes to Zambia to give a service. You can't touch a service that person is giving or is offering to the nation. Yes, we can touch the teacher, but we didn't import the teacher, wanted the service. That's how it is. So even here there is unfavorable balance of payment and favorable balance of payment. Unfavorable is when a country receives less foreign currency from its exports but pays more foreign currency on its imports, also known as balance of payment deficit. Balance of payment deficit. So these are almost the same, but it's just that this one is comprehensive. When you talk about balance of trade and balance of payment, they are almost the same, but this one is comprehensive, means total payments, total countries' payments for both visible and invisible imports and exports. But for balance of trade, only deals with what? The visible goods. That's all. So when a country receives less foreign currency from its exports, less foreign currency, we mean what it is exporting is only costing 2,000 kwacha, but what it is importing is costing 6,000 kwacha. This is unfavorable balance of payment. This is unfavorable balance of payment, also known as balance of payment deficit. Favorable is the other way around. When a country receives more foreign currency from its exports, from the exports we receive 8,000 kwacha, but spends less foreign currency on its imports, also known as balance of payment surplus. Surplus. What we are paying for or what we are importing is only costing 2,000 kwacha. So this is favorable. This is favorable. I hope we are together on trade.